Hello and good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, or good morning, depending on where you are in the world. You're very welcome to join me on this session on the latest release for Enterpryze. And I can see there everybody is just jumping on to the webinar now. So you're very, very welcome. And here we are again a month later with another great update that we've provided to the Enterpryze platform. And this release went live yesterday morning, and you didn't notice, of course, because there is no interruption to your system, no downtime. We've been able to seamlessly update the system as we always do every month, but bringing you some great, wonderful functions and features to the system that should add huge benefit to your organizations. So let me jump right in, and I can see there's more joining, so you're all very, very welcome. So let me just quickly start off, and we'll share my screen and just give you full overview of, first and foremost, where we've reached to in the latest release. So the latest release for Enterpryze is Lakota, aptly named, and basically it's brought some wonderful features of great power and benefit to you for this month. So let's just remind you of what's come in the June release. So continuing our journey with Intercompany, so this is something we've obviously introduced this year, all around integrating and streamlining your processes within your group and within your list of organizations. So seamlessly, this enables you to update, obviously to replicate items across those organizations, also to create and replicate service transactions. And now we've introduced stock transactions. So by doing this, of course, as I've said, it's improving your visibility across all of your organizations, and as well making it more efficient across those operations. So for example, you might have an organization where you might only enter all of the relevant sales orders, but you want to ensure, for example, in the second organization or target organization, that all of the relevant deliveries are updated and recorded without having to do those manually from one organization to another. So with the intercompany option, as you can see here, that when we come in then to define that against a customer, you will see that you now have the selection available to you for all of the relevant sales transactions. So our quote, order delivery, return invoice, credit note, and reserve invoice. So I will show it to you in a live demonstration towards the end of exactly what this will look like going from the source organization to the target organization. So for example, the live demonstration will include going from a sales order in the source, going directly to a delivery, a sales delivery in the target organization. So what we can do there is specify the warehouse to ensure that that reaches the relevant warehouse within the target organization. And then if there's a remark that you want to make sure obviously comes over from the sales order directly through to the delivery, you will populate it here under the customer details. And of course, it's important to be able to control when and if these particular intercompany transactions are active or not active within an organization. So of course, at line level, you can see there for any of those transactions against your customer that you can switch those on or off as required. And of course, the rollout includes our purchases stock transactions as well. So you'll have a similar list insofar as from purchase order right through to purchase invoice, purchase credit note, that you'll be able to replicate transactions from one organization to another very easily and very seamlessly. So next up, we have the accounting UI. And again, I'll show this all to you in the live demonstration. So one of the key things that we've done here is initially up until now, we had done some initial changes. When you look, for example, at your chart of accounts screen or your profit and loss, we had changed the UI as you come into those screens where everything is defined under panels, that you can clearly see exactly where you have landed, the information that you can switch on or off to enable that particular report or within that particular screen. So of course you have all the toggle buttons to switch on or off. But this introduction this month, when you drill in or drill down into a GL account on any one of those screens, and you can see the list of those screens available to you, you will now get a full screen view. Up until now, it was a pop-up screen that just appeared in the middle of the screen. Now it'll be a full screen view with a full grid. So what that means, the benefits are that you have full functionality, of course, within that grid. It's on a full screen. It's fully searchable. You can filter within the columns. You've got the elliptical menu there, of course, where you've got all the various grid options for column chooser. And of course, if you want to export to Excel. We do have the Excel button as well, sitting outside of that above, as you can see there on the top beside the cancel button. We've got a clearly defined date range where you want to look at a specific GL account for a specific date range. A bit like what you would generate if you were looking at, for example, the general ledger report and you wanted to analyze a specific GL account by a specific date. And of course, you can take that analysis further and maybe limit that to looking at a specific transaction type. Perhaps, as the screen shows here, we're looking currently at sales invoices, but you can limit that down as much as you need to. And of course, all the great functionality exists, of course, within this particular grid, where we can look at a preview on the transaction ID column. You've got the quick access to the journal preview. And of course, you've got the purple WISE tag, which will give you the journal preview itself. And the first button will take you into the journal details in full, where, of course, if you want to edit or review those. So you've all got all of that wonderful grid functionality within the drill down now for all of your GL accounts. And that applies, as you can see there, to the tax details, the chart of accounts, profit and loss, the balance sheet, and of course, the trial balance. In addition to that, we have introduced a UI change, and this is to do with the display of the cost centers, and this is on your journal screen. So when you look at the journal screen and click into a journal entry, and this could be for any transaction where you've allocated cost centers, rather than just seeing the cost center code itself, you will now see the cost center description. So just another added benefit so that you get to see and read the information easier and quicker within the screen as well. So all added benefits, just being able to see everything in a full screen view. In addition to that, we've also introduced more wonderful WISE panels. So you're getting used to the fact that we've now got a lot of fields around the platform that have that purple WISE tag. So where you see that purple highlight or that purple bold within a field, within a column, within information on a document, you know that it's a clickable option. And of course, it's going to give you more information that's accessible directly on the screen without actually having to edit or drill in further within the transaction. So 3 more wonderful WISE panels that we've been able to introduce. The first one here is around the address details. So you can see here that the purple WISE tag now exists around our bill to and our ship to. So you will find this throughout all of the sales transactions, that when you click on the bill to or ship to address, you'll get a pop-up WISE panel to show you what that address information is. And it just means that you know exactly, for example, if one of the delivery guys happens to phone you and hasn't got the up-to-date information to hand, that you can quickly review it on screen through the relevant transaction. Secondly, we have the historical prices on the document. Now, this is already available, as you know, when you're creating a document and when you're editing a document. So now when you're just viewing or previewing a document, you can do exactly the same and click on the unit price. And you have a purple WISE tag that will bring up a WISE panel to show you all of the historical prices between that customer and that particular stock item that have already been invoiced to date. In addition, now we've brought in a brand new WISE panel, and this is all to do with gross profit visibility. So you're fully aware that on the item list on your transaction, when you expand the line, you can see exactly the gross profit and the gross profit percentage that was applied to that particular line. Well, overall for the document, you can now click onto the subtotal option down here on the bottom of your document, where you will get the overall gross profit percentage. And of course, this will be based on your organization settings. So in module settings, where you've defined to show gross profit, it will then show you whether you have gross profit defined by actual price, by moving average, by last purchase price, or by price list. So when you click on that, it will show it to you based on the definition defined for your organization. Again, I will show that to you during the live demonstration so you can see how easily that comes through the system. And of course, June doesn't end there, as if you've been following all of the updates that we've been posting. So you might be getting used to, particularly over since May, we've introduced a lot of educational tools to educate you when the latest release has gone live, and of course around particular functionalities that have gone live within the system on actually how to utilize those within the platform. So look out for our pop-ups as they come through. So for example, we've one running currently at the moment against banking, and that will identify all of the great bank feed enhancements we've made. And this is to enable you to manage your bank transactions. And the whole idea here is that without getting us involved in terms of helping you to add on additional bank transactions or to remove excessive bank transactions, that you can now control this by utilizing a user permission to set up that against the relevant user for the banking. And then they can go in and remove bank transactions or add new bank feed transactions. The same with the purchasing. We've now introduced being able to close a purchase order. So you can do that from two places, as you know. So just a tip, just to remind you that when you're on the purchase order grid, if you right click on a purchase order, you get the options there to close or cancel or edit. Or if you wanted to copy it through to a goods receipt, you can do it from the grid as well. The same with the sales for the email and billing. We've introduced a new column, and this is to do with our remittance advice on the outgoing payments, that if a particular payment was involved in a batch payment or a batch wizard payment, that you can see that now as part of the email and billing. And of course, we've extended the user logged in session. So this was previously 20 minutes before you had to re-enter your credentials. So we've now extended that to 1 hour. So you have more control over using the platform. But all of these great features and all of the demonstrations, if you want to have a look at actually how to utilize those day to day, they can be accessed again through the Help Center, help.enterpryze.com. If you go into news and updates and go to the latest article, which is for the June release, you'll get access to a list of all of these features and the linked demonstrations to each one of those. Okay, so now I'm going to jump into the live system because I want to show you what this all looks like in action, because it's one thing to show you and talk about the benefits, but let's see how it all looks like. So let me just share my screen now with you and we will jump into the live system. Here we go. Fantastic. Okay, so starting off here, we're going to look at a company. So we're going to look at a particular customer and how the customer has been defined, of course, for intercompany primarily. So looking at this customer details, we come down here to the intercompany tab. And from here, let me just wait for that to load up. You can see here that I've already selected another organization to update. So my target organization. I've selected my target company. In this case, it happens to be another Euro customer within that target organization. It could, of course, be a supplier, because you might be actually taking a sales order through to a purchase order or whatever. So if you want to update information from one organization to another between customer and supplier, that you can also select the company to utilize that. So in this particular example, you can see here we've added a line that goes from a sales order to the target transaction as a sales delivery. I've specified the target warehouse, so this is the general warehouse. I've just put in a remarks just to show you that that's what's going to come up as default. It's turned on as active, but just to show you, I can add on any other lines that I require. So for example, I might want to, if I actually do create invoices in the source organization, I might want to make sure that I also create the invoice in the target organization. And I can just put in that it's going to require a reference on it, and I can switch that on and simply click on save. Just to note that because I'm obviously putting in the warehouse, this implicates that I'm obviously doing item transactions for this particular customer. So if this wasn't an item transaction and there was only a service customer, the warehouse would of course be left blank. Okay, so now let's look at the sales transaction. Let's take it through from the order to delivery so that you can see that integrate seamlessly then to the other organization. And let's start off here with our new sales order item. And if we select the same customer again, so click on our customer, and I'm going to obviously have to put in a delivery date. I'll just put in today's date and that's fine. I am obviously going to be selecting a stock item and one that I know already exists within the target organization. So this is important as well. So as a user, I have to know that these items already exist within the target organization, because if I'm replicating a transaction, all of the information needs to exist on both sides. So very simply here, this is just your line entry. And as you can see here, we've just got the usual quantity and the price. One thing I'm going to add in here is a manual base cost, because this particular organization records gross profit by actual. So that would be manual base cost. So I want to add that in now so I can show you how that looks on the WISE panel once we update that for the GP. So let's just add in the line. Excellent. And you can see there the line has been added in, and I'm going to pop up to the top of the screen here and just simply click on save. And now we will activate the intercompany WISE panel. So the next bit acts on the basis where we have certain defaults already defined for the target organization. So already you can see the remarks that are appearing that I defined against this particular company in the source organization. I can of course change this now and update it or add any information to it. It's telling me it's going to take all lines, but perhaps I only want to take one line to the delivery. You can see there that in the target organization, the customer that I've chosen as the target also has a default cost center. So of course I can change that and update that at this point. And of course I can change and update the default project that's already been selected for that target organization. So let's just click on save and take the defaults as they exist. And now you can see what happens. It's telling me that the intercompany transaction has been successful. It's telling me the organization, as you can see here, Jazz example SG. It's telling me the customer, and this is the one that we chose as the target organization. It's telling me the sales delivery number in the target organization. And now it's asking me, do I want to view that document? So let's do that. While that's doing that, let's just go back to the source for 1 second. And I want to show you here, there's now a line in this panel here under the customer currency to confirm exactly what's just happened, that this intercompany document was posted to that particular organization. This is the customer. Here is a link to that customer in the target organization as sales delivery number 514. And here's a link to that target document. But I've already opened it up here in a second tab. So let's just click into that. And you can see there we've landed in the target organization with the target customer for the same amount on the document. And again, if I look down under the customer currency, I get the reversing information. So it tells me where it's come from and the customer it's come from. So 030123 by sales order number 2843. And of course, my blue link button will take me back, number 1, to that customer, or number 2, to that specific document that it was generated from. So if I go back to the source organization, so already you can see all the information that gets transferred. So I get the amount, the unit price coming across, given that both companies in both organizations happen to be the same currency. Now, bearing in mind that the exchange rates might be different. So if you find there's a difference in value, you've got to remember to consider exchange rates as well for foreign currency when you're going from one organization to another, because of course, once it hits the target organization, it's going to look at the target organization's exchange rates at that point in time. So when you come down to that and look at the details and you see anything that could be slightly different, it's all down to exchange rates between the organizations. So how easy and simple that is now just to replicate one transaction type to another transaction type in another organization. So simple, so quick, so seamless, and at all times being able to see on both transactions exactly where it has come from and where it has gone to, with links back to both at all times. So just bringing us back, so this leads us back then to the WISE panels. So while we're in here looking at this particular sales order, well, let's take a look back at what we now have available to us as well on the clickables. So we mentioned about the address details. So you can see here on the bill to and the ship to, we've got a purple WISE tag. So if I click here on either one, we just get a very simple WISE panel that just shows us the address information. We don't get to maintain it or change it from here, but we can see what that information is. And of course, in addition to that, if you have populated any custom fields against the address information, if that's more specific to your organization, you will be able to see all of those custom fields populated here as well against the addresses. So moving on down, and again, we're still in preview mode on our sales order. So you can see here under the unit price, if I now click on the unit price WISE tag, I will get a full view of all the invoices relating to this particular customer and this particular stock item. So I can see there stock item 180625 and the customer 030123, and all the invoices that have previously come through with all of the relevant unit prices that were invoiced previously as well. So again, I can get access to all of the information directly from the preview screen. In addition to that, we come down here to the subtotal. So I mentioned this as well. So now we have a purple WISE tag on the subtotal. So if this document contained multiple lines, multiple transactions, and each one had its own gross profit, we would then, of course, be able to extend the line to see the individual gross profit against that particular item, or click here on the purple WISE tag for the subtotal to see an overall total gross profit for that particular document. So I mentioned here that this always looks at the definition defined for your organization. So in this instance here, I'm just going to highlight it there on screen. It's telling me that the total purchase price is by actual. So that's based on my settings, my module settings, where I've defined the gross profit to be calculated by actual cost price. So that's where I have to put in a manual cost. Otherwise, if it's by moving average, it'll say moving average, or by last purchase price, or by price list. So whatever you've defined for your organization is what it takes through here for the purpose of the total gross profit. So a huge benefit to getting that information instantly on screen against each and every transaction that's posted through on the system, without having to extend down on every line and look at it from an individual line perspective, that you can now just take a quick overview on the transaction and see exactly what gross profit has been made against that full transaction, or potential to be made against that full transaction, especially if we're obviously at sales order stage, and of course then if it ultimately goes to invoicing for the realized gross profit at that stage. So there you have it in terms of the intercompany and the wonderful visibility that you have from one organization to another, and particularly here on the address tab, where you can see exactly where the transaction has been posted to, with links back to the source and the target from each of the transactions. So it's very easy to maintain, and as I said, it's obviously available to your suppliers as well for all the purchase transactions. So let me just show you here on a quick view on the accounting. So I mentioned about the different drill downs that you have available to you on all the transactions. So I mentioned about the journals. So for example, if we were to drill down into a journal entry, I mentioned that now when you look at the different cost centers, so rather than seeing the code, you will now see the name displayed here. And that's the primary change we've made. If you come in to edit that and update your cost centers, you're still selecting from a list of the codes. You'll still see the description beside them. But when you update and view it here on the overall journal, you will see the cost center descriptions. Moving on then to the chart of accounts. So for example, let me just collapse all of those for a moment and just go into, for example, one of the revenue accounts, which you saw on the presentation. So for example, now when you drill down, we get a full screen view of our account drill down. And from here, of course, we can drill it down even further. We can specify, for example, if we want to go from the start of the year to the present day, so that we have an opening and closing balance on that particular GL account, just to see what the movements are. And of course, we can drill down further, we can filter. As you can see here, we can filter down, for example, if we only want to look at a specific transaction type, other than sales invoices, just the credit notes, you can drill down further, or for a specific journal number. And of course, even from the grid itself, we've got the full journal preview. We can get to it from here as well. And of course, we go back to the drill down screen. As you can see there, the back button is taking me back to the drill down screen each time. So you're not losing that on screen. So it's a huge benefit being able to see everything now in full view and make it fully searchable. And of course, you've got your Wise panel to give you the journal preview directly on screen as well. And of course, if you're looking for a specific invoice number, transaction ID, that you can do a full search within the grid for that as well. And again, if we look here on the elliptical menu, you can see there all the grid options to reload, to export, column chooser, to reset. And of course, if you need to export to Excel very quickly, you can do that from here as well and build up more analysis and more reporting within Excel itself. So that whole drill down, which is brilliant, it applies to all of those accounting reports, chart of accounts, profit and loss, balance sheet, trial balance, and of course, your tax details. So just to show you that here on the tax report itself. So just to come back to this screen here. So if we go, for example, into any of the sales taxes, drill into a sales tax, just to show you, we also get a full screen view. And the great thing here is it returns the full amount. And again, it's looking at a specific date range for that amount. So if I want to look at a specific month in isolation, it will return the values based on that. And of course, fully searchable, filter within all of the columns, and of course, export to Excel. And you can see here the same slider buttons that we've introduced throughout the system, being able to switch on and off paging. And of course, in some of the other reports, you'll have different options available to you as well. So lots and lots of great new changes that have come this month. And as I've mentioned, there's quite a lot more that we didn't quite get through. But obviously, just to remind you, because I always think this is a great tip that people tend to lose out on, that when you're in, for example, the orders grid, so this is just in relation to our purchase orders. Just make sure that we're looking at everything there. It doesn't matter. Perfect. And for example, when I right click on a purchase order, you can see here that I get all of the options that I get within my actions menu. So this would be when you're previewing a PO and you wanted to cancel or close in this instance, which we've now brought in as a new option, or to edit or copy it to a purchase delivery or a purchase invoice. So this is all quick tips around the grid as well to get you from one place to another. So lots of great changes. And maybe what I'll do is, while we're here, let me just quickly remind you of where you can access all of the demonstrations in one place. So at help.enterpryze.com, if you come in then to the latest, so into the news and updates, and the latest updates, you can see there, Lakota, it's at the top. Always bring the latest one at the top for you. So at the top, click in, and you can see a list of all the great changes. And of course, more importantly, an access to all of the demonstrations. So just to click on any of the demonstrations there, and it'll open up into a new tab, and you can step through a guided tour of what that change is and how to implicate that within the system. So lots of great new changes. And again, just a reminder to look out on our roadmap. Again, enterpryze.com. If you click on resources and click on the roadmap, we're already building the roadmap for next month. Of course, everything is subject to change depending on timelines and testing. But of course, we'll have more great changes coming in July. So check those out on the roadmap within our resources on the website. So We'd love to hear more. And obviously, if you would like to give us feedback in particular around any of the pop-ups that you've seen appearing over the last month or so, and in particular over the last couple of days, let us know if they're making an impact and of benefit to you when they pop up on screen. And we'd love to hear your feedback, as always. If you can reach out to us at marketing@enterpryze.com and or talk to anybody in support. Enterpryze.com, you can click on the chat or simply click on the chat within the Enterprise platform itself. So thank you so much for joining me. And if any of your colleagues have missed out on today's session, we will get the recording posted up on the website. It'll be there either this evening or certainly by tomorrow morning for you to watch again. Thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you a great rest of day. Thank you and take care.